What's up everybody, got a super helpful video here for y'all today. Basically everything you need to know about protein, you know how much, basically the best time to take it, and what's the best kinds to eat pretty much. Now I believe I read 5 different articles on it, and every single article had multiple different studies linked in them, so it's just not like my opinion or something. I'll link all the articles down below. Now I'm gonna read, I think I ended up just citing notes, taking some notes from 3 different articles, and that's just because a lot of them said the exact same, or a couple of them said the exact same thing, so I didn't, I'm not going to tell you the exact same thing twice. Now the reason I just cited from 3, now a lot of the thing they say are on, they're very identical, but the time periods are different. Like one I believe is from 2014, and then there's 2 from 2017, but they word things a little bit different, and I thought I'd say a couple different points from each article, so let's get into it. Alright, what is going on everybody? Time to hop over here to the commentary. Should be over some working out or something. But here we go. This first article I'm citing from, just took notes like I said from different places here and there. July 5th, 2017, optimal recommendations: 4 meals of 40 grams of protein spaced out evenly throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and pre-sleep, and the majority of protein from animal-based protein sources. Supplement 5 grams of leucine 15 to 30 minutes before a meal or during a meal. 15 to 30 minutes is the best option. During the meal or right after the meal is the second best option. And if supplemental leucine is no option, a whey protein or hydrolyzed protein shake could be used as a replacement, and that's the third best option. But that should be an option for you if you're gonna, can afford to be buying whey protein shakes. You could buy some leucine. The one I bought was from Vitamin Shop, had 100 servings in it, was $32.39, and that's after tax. I got a whole video explaining basically why you should be doing that, just really quick, and that's going over a bunch of studies. It's been studied. It increases your muscle protein synthesis, and what that basically is, that's basically the process where your body's going in and actually rebuilding your muscles. So in short, it elevates that, it peaks it to a way higher level and stimulates it. So without getting that too much, that's why that's on there. So that's the most optimal recommendation there for the protein. If you want to be getting the most out of your diet, that's what you need to be doing. Now, if you want a minimalist recommendation, which is to get the most results with minimal effort, eat at least 120 grams of protein per day. Now this first article here is going off a huge study of a bunch of athletes. So if I say something pertaining to certain people in the study, that's why I'm saying that. Daily protein intake recommendations are 1.3 to 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, or 0.59 to 0.81 grams per pound of body weight a day. Protein needs do not appear to depend on body weight or amount of lean body mass. Therefore, protein recommendations expressed as grams/kilograms a day may underestimate protein needs for smaller athletes. Women tend to eat less protein than men, but likely need the same absolute amount. Protein intake correlates with energy intake. Make sure your protein intake remains high when dieting. Animal-based protein is more anabolic when compared to plant-based protein because of the higher essential amino acid content. This can be compensated for by eating more plant protein. Like if you're trying to go vegan or something, you can kind of make up for the lack of amino acids by just eating more. But, if you're matching calorie for calorie, the animal-based protein is going to be, more anabolic. 20 grams of protein in a meal gives a near maximal increase in muscle protein synthesis. Further increasing protein to 40 grams gives a relatively small additional 10 to 20% increase in muscle protein synthesis. Older adults need more protein than younger adults, and it's even more important for them to go up to 40 grams per meal. An additional protein meal just before sleep improves total protein intake and protein distribution. The plasma leucine peak following protein ingestion is a major determinant of muscle protein synthesis. There are no conditions in which branched-chain amino acid supplementations appear to be the optimal choice. And the whole pre-sleep thing, I think that was studied as well. Again, it's going to be in one of the articles I'll link below. I believe it'll be the first one. Kind of showing how you may be missing out on some gains if you're not eating something relatively close to bed, because you're going a whole 8 hours or however long you're sleeping without food. So if you could have the protein in your system, you'd be better off. I'll throw this diagram up here, the protein pyramid, order of importance from bottom to top, basically. So, number one would be your total daily protein intake, regardless where you're getting it from. Second on your priority list would be your protein quality, which would be basically animal-based over, plant-based. But you can get blends of both. Just make sure you're getting in the good animal in there too. And then above that, next most important step would be protein distribution. And then on top of that, lastly, would be, if you want to get the most out of it, would be your leucine supplementation, 5 grams, 15 to 30 minutes before each meal, to really maximize your muscle protein synthesis. All right, get the most bang for your buck out of that. Second notes here are from article from May 19th, 2017, reflecting on 5 years of studying protein. So what would I recommend today looking back on the last 5 years? Well, based on everything, I think 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight is probably the highest intake you'll benefit from in terms of enhancing strength or mass gains when you're not in a deficit. However, higher intakes are fine, but the only benefit would be for people who tend to overeat in the off season and want to limit their calorie consumption to prevent excess fat gain. While dieting, the jury is still out concerning whether there is a benefit from an intake higher than 1.8 to 2.2 kilograms per gram of body weight for muscle retention. However, there probably are some benefits in terms of satiety. I'm not sure how to say that word. Satiety. Yeah, it's basically where you feel full, and potentially mood. That said, I wouldn't go too high, as excess protein can displace your caloric atonement for carbs and fat. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and end up with a subpar diet in terms of variety, micronutrient density, and adequate nutritional support for training. Thus, I'd cap protein intake at 2.8 grams per kilogram of body mass, or roughly 1.3 grams per pound of body weight. And lastly here, the article I pulled some notes from was from March 12th, 2014, the 3 laws of protein. Like I said, I actually read about 5 whole articles, but a couple of the other articles pretty much said the exact same thing, so I didn't want to recite the same exact words. Now, I know these are saying similar things, but they're at least breaking it down a little bit differently and restating it in different words to help you understand it a little better, is why I'm saying, why I'm reciting these other articles instead of just one. Okay, the purpose of this article is straightforward and simple. Help you reach your fitness or physique goals with 3 simple, science-backed tips for getting the most from your dietary protein. Protein consumption is such a popular subject that the basics can be lost in all the noise and supplement company hype. So the goal here is to simplify and get to what's actually important. Number 1, eat enough protein. How much? 0.82 grams per pound of body weight, or 1.8 grams per pound or per kilogram of body weight. Rounding up to 1 gram per pound of body weight or 2 grams per kilogram of body weight may be easier to remember, and getting a little more certainly doesn't hurt. But the point here is that the crazy recommendations of 2 grams per pound or even more are overkill. As you eat more past that point, rates of protein synthesis and breakdown both increase at essentially the same rate. So again, there's no problem with erring on the high side, but unless you're on steroids to further elevate protein synthesis to make the use of extra protein, you hit a point of diminishing returns. So 1 gram per pound of body weight is more than enough. Like I said, all of the studies basically are saying around 0.8 is what's been shown, and then, you know, to be enough, like this article here says 0.82, the other one said 0.81, the other one said 0.8 something. So as long as you're getting 0.8 to 1 gram, you should be 100% fine. I always just recommend a gram per pound of body weight. It's easy to remember as well. But so anywhere from 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, you're golden. I just like doing one just to make sure, you know, everything is good, like I said, and the fullness factor again. Okay, on the flip side, if you're not getting in this amount of protein regularly, you will probably benefit from increasing intake. For some people, 0.82 grams per pound of body weight may seem like a ludicrously high number. However, if you are currently under that level of intake, you will accrue benefits as you eat more protein. As an aside, increasing protein intake above 0.82 grams per pound of body weight may have benefits if you're trying to lose weight. Protein is more satiating per gram than either carbohydrates or fat, and in a caloric deficit, erring on the high side to ensure you hold on to as much muscle as possible is wise anyways. Now, on some of the articles I didn't conclude or didn't enter here because there's no actual research on it yet, was that debate there is eating more protein better when you're in a caloric deficit, and there's no, from the studies I looked at, there's no actual enough evidence to support it yet. But in theory, it does make sense. So that's all I'm going to say on that. If I find some articles on that in the future, I will post those. I'll post a video on that. 2. Space your protein intake throughout the day. A recent study showed that on average, 24-hour protein synthesis rates are about 25% higher if you space your protein intake out throughout the day rather than eating the majority of it in one meal. Obviously, there are implications for intermittent fasting. Personal opinion, it can be a useful tool for cutting, but for gaining size, it's hard to beat eating food all day. In a recent meta-analysis, Alan Aragon, Brad Schoenfeld, and James Krieger showed that post-workout nutrition only worked insofar as it increased overall protein intake for the day. Essentially, getting enough protein in your diet is the important factor, not bombing huge amounts of protein around your training session. Number 3, get your protein from high-quality sources. This issue is definitely not as important as the first two, but it's still worth mentioning. Whey in particular seems to be particularly good at stimulating muscle protein synthesis, leading to hypertrophy. It's been shown to be superior to both soy and casein for this purpose, and not just acutely, but in training studies showing increased lean mass gains from lifting. Although all possible protein sources haven't been compared at this point, obviously, as a general rule of thumb, animal sources are better than plant sources for stimulating protein synthesis. When in doubt, though there are a ton of options on the market, it's hard to beat a plain old whey isolate when you need some protein and don't have time to make some meat. The takeaway: get somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein per day. Space your intake out rather than concentrating it all in one period, and prioritize protein sources like whey, meat, and eggs. It sounds so simple, but it's amazing how often people can get sucked in by some exciting new study or fad and forget the basics. That's it for the video. Wanted to get straight to the point there, let y'all get that information. I hope this helps. Everybody's always asking me about diet because it's such a huge important factor here. And really everybody I talk to who asks for, opinion on diet, or they're never getting enough protein. And like I said, I always just recommend getting 1 gram a pound 1 gram per pound of body weight. And like I said, the science even shows, especially if you're bulking, you can just go 0.8 grams. But I hope that helped. Stay happy, stay healthy. Go make y'all some gains. I'm gonna see y'all on the next one. Peace out.